October 21st is Creative Women Mini-Con. It's the 5th annual, and we are welcoming for the very first time Rachel Strum. One of the great things I love about Creative Women Mini-Con is we have regulars, and we have people who have been here since the beginning, but we always try to make room for new people because it's a great event for people to show their stuff, to be introduced to Empire's regulars, to be introduced to Sacramento regulars, because we get so many different people coming through for the event. And we would like to welcome, for the very first time, Rachel Strum to the event. Thank you for coming down.
I'm excited.
It's going to be fun.
I'm really
You actually
excited.
heard about the event from a regular, right?
Yeah, from my friend Jen. I make wands, and I was looking for a venue, and I said, you know, I love meeting people at all of the local markets I'm going to, but it's not quite right for what I'm doing. It's so niche.
And I'll give you a little show here. We'll show you more as we go, but just an example of the kind of stuff she's talking about.
And so she recommended you guys. She said, you know, it's a comic book store, and I said, oh, yeah, that's perfect.
You're like, that is absolutely perfect.
Those are my people.
And, I mean, it's not even just the wands. There's other stuff we'll show you. But so you have been doing this for a little while then.
Yeah, I've always been a geek, for lack of better terms.
Yes, and it's a nice general thing that we embrace.
I read comics as a kid. I read fantasy, and I've just always loved fantasy. It's one of those really pure enjoyment things. And actually, I love Sarah's stuff because she does mythology. I was super into mythology. I'm still into mythology. You know, I read the Odyssey when I was in 4th grade.
Nice.
People thought I was crazy, but it was good.
Yeah, but it stuck. It led to ultimately everything else that was to come.
It was good.
So, when did you take your love of fantasy and turn it into something artistic?
So I've actually always made things. Okay, when we were young and we went to birthday parties, you know how there's always like a craft thing, and then they move on and they do cakes and birthday presents and they play. I was the kid who stayed at the table and continued to make the craft the entire time.
You're like, do you want some cake? And you're like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Detailed. Leave me alone.
Nice.
Okay.
So you've always been into this.
I've always done this.
And it's always been something that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
But then, for example, your wands, when did you start doing something like this? Because I don't go to every convention, but I don't remember seeing wand sellers.
I've never gone to a convention, and I really should.
You know, there's a couple right here in town. You should go to SacCon. Out of all of them,
and there's like anime as well.
There's a Sac anime as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't bother with it.
That's the goal for next year. Because now I know it exists. So
yeah,
that's the goal for next year, and also I'll try to go to the Stockton one as well.
Stockton is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Stockton and Grape City, which is in Lodi.
Grape City.
Really, really good shows.
I'll need to write this down afterwards.
Yeah, well, we'll give it all to you.
Forget.
And you know what? Jen knows. Yeah, she knows all of them too, so she can give you the rundown.
It's a gold mine. Okay.
So you, when did you start building these?
I started building these actually a year ago, so not that long.
Wow, so brand new to the entire thing.
Well, I've always been making fantasy stuff, but last year I started looking at wands. I've always wanted one.
Okay.
And I started getting really frustrated because all the ones I saw, they weren't made out of wood. The ones that looked nice, they weren't made out of wood, and I really think they should be made out of wood.
Were they plastic?
Yeah. And then like that weighted stuff. The weight is nice, but I'm like, you're not wood, you're fake.
You can't do magic without wood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, so finally, I was like, you know what? I bet I can do this myself. So I just started making them with my daughter at first because she's 7 and we're always doing stuff together.
That's absolutely perfect.
So it's like, okay, let's start and let's try this. And we made a few, and I could see just from making a few that I could do a lot with it. I'm an illustrator. I was trained as an illustrator anyway, and I usually do editorial illustration or technical drawings, and that's what I used to do. And I thought, you know, I can apply that here. That and my love of elves.
Okay, elves in particular.
Elves in particular.
I'm a halfling fan.
Lord of the Rings was a big deal to me growing up.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I can take what I love and I can actually turn this into something where it looks adult. You know, where wands for grown-ups and kids, but things with real stones, not marbles. Things with.
Is this all hand painted?
Magical. They're all hand painted.
They're all hand painted as well, guys. And the great thing is, Creative Women Mini-Con is right before Halloween.
Yes, it's perfectly timed.
I'm just saying, it's absolutely perfectly timed for a great original Halloween costume.
Yeah.
So, how long does it take you to make one of these on average?
About 2 weeks, if I'm going from the ground up. So, my wands are all unique because they're all handmade, so they're all different. This one is probably my best seller currently.
Mhm.
I think it's because the gem is huge, but can they see it?
No. Here.
Okay, you do it, yeah. The gem is huge, but also this one sells really well for children because it's not a real stone, but it's got a huge gem, and so they can't break it as easily as real stones.
Excellent.
Which I have a kid. I really appreciate.
You appreciate
the
that
lack of
aspect of it.
breakability.
And some of them are even, as you will see.
I hand carve probably about a third of them. So
Okay.
the weird shaped ones are all found wood. They're not harvested, and that makes them really unique. So,
That's very unique.
and
actually.
I usually sell out of those, so it's if you catch me with one, it's pretty rare.
Okay, because you have to. Yeah, there's a lot more involved in putting one of those together.
We call this one the misdirection wand because it looks all weirdly curved, but if you actually look straight down it does point straight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
That is really neat, actually.
Yeah.
So if you see one of these ones, make sure you grab it because, as she said, there's not going to be many of them because it requires a lot more work and it's obviously a lot more special. So you should get one. But wands are not the only thing that you do.
I do a lot of things.
You do a lot of things. You actually said I want to touch on it real quick. You said you do illustration.
I do illustration, but that's always on a commission basis. And
So
it's
what kind?
Scientific illustration, pretty particularly. My husband is a chemist.
Okay.
And so turns out scientists mostly draw their own images, which is why they all look that way.
Okay.
They're all, very color blocky, simple. And so when he was going to grad school, I started drawing his images because it's like, well, let's just, let's
Spice it up
increase
a little bit, yeah.
the variety here. And then people saw it, and I started getting commissions from other labs, and so I'm still doing a little bit of that.
So do you do anything outside of that? Any fantasy or anything like that?
Not so much. I'm so busy with what I already do that I only take illustration on a commission basis.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
No, it's a great thing.
That you're busy enough where you don't have to open it up. So.
Well, and I enjoy 3D more than 2D. I
That's fair
love
enough.
drawing, but I really like building things with my hands.
Well, let's take a peek here then, because these. I mean, it just looks like a bowl of Pokemon balls. But what do we have here? Because there's obviously.
It's a bowl of Pokemon balls.
It is. Yes, it is. No, there's more in there. It's at the bottom, I swear. But it is Pokemon balls. So what do we got here?
So most of the things in my shop, the wands are for me because I love them. But most of the things in my shop are because of my daughter.
Okay.
There are things where I was like, okay, in this case, she didn't like taking baths. Like it was such a struggle getting her into the bath. She didn't want to take one. I hated fighting over it. And I already made soaps as a hobby. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, how can we do something to make it more interesting for her? So she was really into My Little Pony.
And these have them inside, guys, in case you can't see it from there. But you can probably at least make it out there. You can see on the back the colors.
Yeah. So I stuck a My Little Pony in a soap, in a gem soap. That makes it special.
It makes it super special.
That's right. And then I handed it to her and said, okay, every time you bathe, a little more is going to wash away, and then you get the toy at the end.
It's genius.
It
is
was
absolutely
great.
Genius.
She started loving baths, and she smelled really good.
That's always good for children. Thank you.
So, and so I started making them to sell because I was like, I bet other people have the same problem.
Yeah.
And then I started.
Do you tell them that story when you do it? Because they have to know how important this is.
Well, so when their kid comes up, I go, do you like baths? Okay.
And of course they're like, no. And then you make eye contact with the parent, and you're like, now they will.
Yeah. And it works really well, except sometimes if you're not catching them, they'll hold the soap right under the water, until they can get to the toys.
Yeah.
You have to watch out.
Like it's gonna wash away. They're just trying to get as much as they can.
Yeah, the toy's in there. We're going.
So does this fit in here or just that?
No, okay. So these gems have the My Little Ponies.
Gotcha. Okay.
These are for me because
Pikachu.
I'm a first generation Pokemon fan. Hardcore. Okay. I like the classics. And so I have Pokemon, and I thought, well, I think I'll do the same thing so that you get amazing. A whole set.
Push the button.
That is really...
Yeah, and it opens.
So
and
you got it in there.
Pikachu's and Gengar and, Meryl. Most of the classics, because that's what I like.
That is absolutely perfect. In fact, I can think of
stuff.
plenty of adults who are going to be excited about taking
That's
baths.
why I
Not
made
that
it
you
for
don't
me.
already, but they're going to be more excited about taking baths with this kind of stuff. So that is neat. Well, you'll have a good selection of these guys here. So My Little Pony and the Pokemon. I anticipate the Pokemon has got to be the biggest seller.
You know, it's actually half and half.
It goes 50-50, okay.
It's really interesting.
Well, My Little Pony's so
I get a lot of boys who like the My Little Pony, like little boys, and tons of girls. And then the Pokemon is just popular.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
That's got to be all ages.
So
because as you said with the first
other.
generation, there's a lot of people who are grown now who are going to get just as excited about that.
Pikachu's,
as the
Bulbasaur's, Charizard. Yeah.
See, she knows her stuff.
Of course I know my stuff. I said I was a geek.
So what about this then?
That was something I started doing for me. That's like the wands. I was like, you know what? I've seen some crystal soaps, but they're always tiny. You know, they're tiny little crystals. And I'm like, I want a sorcerer soap.
Okay.
I want big crystals, and it needs to be sparkly and look like it came out of a book. So I started making these, and no one else makes these. These are completely hand carved. So I have to set it in layers, carve it 3 times, put it together, reset it.
So this is all soap.
They're a labor of love.
Is soap.
The whole thing is soap.
Then you guys really need to understand just how impressive this is, because that's not just like rocks or something she put in there, which would be horribly painful.
I don't use a mold.
If you were doing it on a mold. That is hand carved soap and very intricate. So these, there will probably not be nearly as many.
No, very few of those.
Very few of these.
I make those
these
when
two
I have
guys,
spare moments.
You like your stuff.
Often.
These 2 are the ones you're looking for. These are the rare Pokemon that you need to get your hands on. So you do other craft fairs. You do things around town.
I do.
Are they going to find you anywhere between now and Creative Women? Where can they find you? Tell me.
I'm actually at River City Marketplace this Saturday.
Oh, where's Tahoe Park?
I don't know.
Nobody knows where Tahoe Park is. This is amazing.
Google will tell me.
They will tell you. Jen didn't know either. So so you'll be this Saturday. You will be at Tahoe Park. Google it, guys. Find out where it is.
And I'm actually offering a special. They have do you know what they're calling it?
It's the Power Hour from 3 to 4.
3 to 4.
3 to 4. It's like happy hour.
If you buy something worth $25 or a collection of things worth $25, you get a free spooky soap. I make skull soaps.
That's kind of a neat idea for a convention to do something like that, where I mean, not that you shouldn't buy the rest of the hours, but if you happen to buy that hour, boom, here's a little something extra. Yeah. That's really cool.
Well, I'll have them there anyway to sell, but it's just a free little thing
just a little incentive during that time. That is a really neat idea.
They're very, very nice smelling.
So, outside of Tahoe Park, anything else before that?
Yeah, let's see. Tahoe Park is next week, and then the week after, I'm going to be doing Midtown Market.
Midtown Market.
So I'm there a couple times a year usually, and I'm due to go. So, and then after that, it's the first Fridays at the Fountains in Roseville. That's on October 6th.
There's so much going on around town.
That is so much fun.
Ridiculous. Like you can find so many things.
That one's wonderful. There's a kids zone. There's live music. There are bands, and there's dancing, of course.
Okay.
And we have a blast there. So
okay. And then that leads directly into Creative Women.
No, then I go to Curtis Park.
I couldn't remember where the River City was with the...
I'm pretty sure it's
Curtis Park?
No, it's Fremont, isn't it? Oh, I don't know. If you go to my Facebook page, which
will actually, let's tell them now, where can they find you on Facebook?
So Facebook, it's Citrus Adelaide, or you could search at Citrus Adelaide Gifts.
Okay.
And all my events are up there. So
that's perfect. And so that's Facebook. What else you got? Twitter, Instagram?
I've got Instagram. That's where all the newest things I'm coming out with, I post on Instagram. It's sneak peeks, previews. Actually, I'm making a staff for Creative Women Minicon, and that will I'll start showing snippets of that.
That's cool. And what's the name on that one?
That's at Citrus Adelaide.
Oh, nice and simple.
So Adelaide is spelled Adelier, Atelier.
And we'll have links. We'll have links below so you guys can follow her and figure out what's going on. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you down for the first time, and it's almost here, guys. We got just a little over a month. Mark your calendar. Mark your calendar. October 21st. It's a Saturday. No excuses. Get down here. Creative Women Minicon 5th annual. We'll see you guys there.